In 1919, the Michigan Supreme Court published a decision containing a specific phrase. The court wrote that a business corporation is organized and carried on, quote, primarily for the profit of the stockholders. This sentence appears in nearly every modern corporate law casebook. It serves as the primary authority for the belief that a corporation exists to generate money for its owners. The economist Milton Friedman built on this specific legal concept in his famous 1970 essay. He argued that the only social responsibility of business is to increase its profits. Today, this 1919 sentence frames global arguments over stakeholder capitalism. When critics attack corporate environmental and social initiatives, they point to a legal requirement to maximize shareholder wealth. However, a close reading of the document suggests a different reality. This famous sentence was never the binding rule of the case it comes from. Understanding the true purpose of the modern corporation requires looking past the standard narrative of a Michigan dividend dispute. The lawsuit began as a founder conflict. Henry Ford controlled the Ford Motor Company, while brothers John and Horace Dodge held a minority block. Though the company generated enormous wealth, Ford abruptly refused to pay special dividends, shutting off cash flow to his minority partners. Ford told the public he had a different plan for the money. He wanted to retain cash to expand his massive River Rouge factory complex. He also planned to drastically lower the price of his automobiles. The legal scholar Lynn Stout researched the historical context of this decision. She found evidence that Henry Ford was driven by two distinct, self-serving motives. First, the Dodge brothers were planning to start a competing automobile company. Ford wanted to starve them of the liquid capital they needed to launch their new business. Second, Ford wanted to drive down the value of the Dodge brothers' shares. He intended to buy them out cheaply and secure total ownership of the company. Ford's strategy served a specific, private purpose. By withholding the cash, he executed a calculated freeze-out designed to neutralize his business rivals. When the Michigan Supreme Court issued its decision, Henry Ford lost the core lawsuit. The court ordered the Ford Motor Company to pay the special dividend to the shareholders. The legal rationale for the payout was narrow. The court ruled that a controlling shareholder cannot use their power to oppress minority investors. Ford breached his fiduciary duty of good faith to the Dodge brothers. But the court made a second distinct ruling. The judges explicitly declined to stop Ford from expanding his factories and building the River Rouge plant. The court allowed the expansion because of a standard legal principle. Judges defer to the business judgment of the board of directors. The court refused to micromanage how the company operated. The opinion contains two distinct layers: specific legal orders that changed the company, and philosophical observations. Passing judicial commentary is called dicta. Because the court already decided the case on minority oppression, the famous stockholder profit paragraph was legally unnecessary. This means the most famous sentence in corporate law was a judicial side note rather than a binding legal rule. This realization led Professor Lynn Stout to publish a direct attack on the precedent. She argued the decision is bad law and should be removed from legal education. Stout concluded that the case is exclusively a ruling about a controlling shareholder abusing a minority. It contains no universal mandate requiring modern executives to maximize profits. In the 30 years leading up to 2008, the Delaware courts, the most important jurisdiction for American corporate law, had not cited this case regarding corporate purpose a single time. Relying on this 1919 decision to force modern corporations to prioritize shareholders means relying on a legal ghost. The legal scholar Jonathan Macy offered a counterargument. He defends the core principle of shareholder wealth maximization, even while agreeing that courts rarely enforce it. Macy compares the profit rule to a highway speed limit. The fact that drivers regularly exceed the speed limit without getting caught does not mean the speed limit has been erased from the law. Macy points out that Henry Ford lost the dividend fight because of his own courtroom arrogance. Ford stubbornly testified under oath that his primary goal was to benefit the public, leaving the judges no choice but to rule against him. The court had already granted Ford total discretion over his business methods. If Ford had testified that lowering prices would increase market share and drive long-term profit, he would have won the case. Macy argues the shareholder maximization ideal still guides the law. He notes that the American Law Institute adopts enhancing corporate profit and shareholder gain as the objective of the corporation. This leaves modern corporate law balancing two competing readings. We have Stout's historical analysis on one side and Macy's doctrinal defense on the other. We are left to decide if the law actually demands relentless profit maximization, or if we have spent a century misreading a fable about a stubborn billionaire.